Hello, my name's Roy Johnson. I'd just like to say thank you for spending a few minutes to listen to me and for finding out a little bit more about online guitar and banjo lessons. I'd like to keep this video as short as possible and just talk to you a little bit about my approach to teaching guitar and banjo, and also some of the things you might need to think about in terms of your setup, in terms of your laptop and environment that you take the lessons from at home. If you haven't come across it yet, by the way, I do have a website which is called www.royjohnsonmusic.co.uk, and I also have a fairly new YouTube channel which I've called Acoustic RGJ. So please, if you get time, have a look at both of those, particularly the YouTube channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. I'm trying to keep updated as frequently as I possibly can. So in terms of teaching itself, I always try and tailor my lessons to the individual. So that will be determined by what level of experience you have, whether it be kind of complete beginner or right up to kind of quite an expert player. And also what kind of guitar or banjo you play. For example, guitar-wise, it could be acoustic, classical or electric, and banjo, tenor or bluegrass. Now they all have different requirements in terms of technique, and they have different requirements in terms of the kind of music that's played. So that's one of the things we can talk about in a little more detail, again when we get to talk to each other face to face. But one of the things I would say is that one of the, I suppose, a minor drawback in a way with online lessons is that the two of us can't play music at the same time because there's usually a lag. So what I try to do is provide a kind of a syllabus which enables you to play along to background tracks. So for acoustic and electric guitar, I tend to use something called rock school as a basis. And for things like bluegrass banjo, for example, or tenor banjo, I provide backing tracks. So when you're playing your tunes, you have somebody to accompany you as you're playing along. I use Zoom as a means of delivering guitar and banjo lessons. I find that Zoom is something that a lot of people have already used, obviously due to COVID-19, but it's also a good option because it runs on lots of different types of hardware. Also Zoom, although it was designed for video conferencing, it does have some facilities in the background which enable you to configure it and optimise it for music production. Zoom by default tends to filter out background noise, and obviously, well not obviously, but it considers guitar and banjo, for example, to be background noise, so it kind of filters those out, which is no good if you're trying to teach an instrument, for example. So what we can do in the background is we can turn those filters off and make the whole kind of audio aspect of music teaching much better. Now I personally use external microphones and a digital single lens reflex camera as my camcorder, and I plug my microphones into a digital interface. This means that I can provide you with as good a sound and video quality as I can. From your point of view, you don't have to do that, but we'll talk a little bit about that later on because there are one or two things that you might want to think about in the future. Now there are a few things that you will need to think about in terms of your setup at home. So I'd just like to go through those fairly quickly if I can. The first one, I suppose, is visibility. From my point of view, I need to see both your hands. Now it sounds kind of obvious, but it's surprising how many people would train their webcam onto their face, so I can't actually see their hands at all. And obviously I need to be able to look at your technique and advise you on that. So ideally, if I can see your face and your whole body and your hands, that's brilliant, but there might have to be a little bit of adjustment to make sure I can see both your right and left hands. Secondly, you need to be aware of your bandwidth limitations. Now I don't want to get too technical. Bandwidth is just like the pipe that your internet signal goes through. Now the thing here is that if you've got other people in your house that are maybe downloading games or streaming films, that sort of thing, then it may take some of that bandwidth away from you during your lesson. Now from that point of view, that will cause a bit of an issue because it may result in your Zoom experience freezing or getting a very kind of disjointed, fuzzy picture or broken sound. And that can affect both of us because it can impact the image or the sound that I'm sending to you, or the images or the audio that you're sending back to me. So if you can, just try and make sure that you can be a little bit selfish and hog all that bandwidth for themselves. And the other thing that can impact slightly is if you've got other applications running on your PC or laptop at the same time, try and switch pretty much everything off so all you've got running at the time of the lesson is Zoom. Also, just try and make sure you're fairly comfortable. You're not too cramped. If possible, try and find space for a music stand, because there will be times obviously when we're working off printed music, so you need to be able to see your laptop or your webcam and the printed music at the same time. Great, so finally I did mention before about things you can do to maybe improve your sound and the video slightly. Now bear in mind that these things I'm going to talk about now benefit me more because it affects what I can see or hear from you. But for example, if you've got a built-in webcam that's in your laptop, the chances are the pictures you get won't be quite as good as if you have an external webcam. One of the benefits of external webcams, apart from being probably a higher spec, is that you can position them more freely around the room. You can clip them onto a music stand or clip them onto a shelf. And it gives you a bit more versatility about where you're sitting potentially. And as I say, it'll provide me with a better picture of what you're doing. And related to that is the audio side. Again, if you could at some point maybe think about investing in, for example, a USB microphone, often the qualities of these are very good and substantially better than the microphones that are built into laptops by default. But don't let any of those things stop you from just carrying on and beginning with what you've got currently, because that'll be absolutely fine for starters. Okay, so I'm sure I've missed loads of stuff out. There's plenty we can talk about. Don't forget, our first lesson is free of charge by way of an introduction, and we can talk about all the different sorts of stuff that I've been through, types of music we'll be doing, camera setup, sound, audio, Zoom settings, all of that stuff. And hopefully our experience will be a good one. So, as I said, check out my YouTube channel, Acoustic RGJ. Just give it a thumbs up and a tick if you like it. Subscribe so I can keep you up to date. And get back to me as soon as possible so we can fix up our free introductory session and then hopefully roll out some regular lessons to move you on forward through your musical journey. So I really look forward to hearing you, and again, thanks for your time. Bye for now.